November 20th, 1943. One day in continental Europe, almost every non-German survivor of the war, especially in occupied territory, will claim sympathy or even participation with anti-Nazi resistance. Collaborators will be pursued and unilaterally condemned for being with the Nazis. The reality is far more complicated. Fewer than we would like to think resisted, more than we would like to think collaborated. People started on one side and went to the other. Some even did both at the same time. Joining the resistance or collaboration was not always a choice. This week, 40,000 young Baltic men are not given that choice, and an entire fascist regime wavers in its collaboration with the Holocaust, which is far from over. This is War Against Humanity, a series of World War II in real time. I'm Spartacus Olsson. Last week, Hitler held his last speech in front of a public audience, promising revenge on Great Britain and the Jews. At Auschwitz, Arthur Liebhenschel replaced Rudolf Höss as camp commandant and began business-improving reforms, while mass murders in the gas chambers continued. In London, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill's war cabinet declined to send aid to the famine in Bengal, British India from Great Britain and Canada. As outside aid is clearly not coming, Viceroy of India Archie Wavell can only rely on the military relief program he himself has set up to redistribute food within Bengal so that shortages in especially hard-hit regions are alleviated. In London, Secretary of State for India Leo Amery informs the House of Commons that military machinery for detailed distribution is already working. It's far from enough, but Wavell hopes that the crops planted in the now-ending monsoon season, which will be ready for harvest as winter approaches, will soon bring more relief. But additionally, a deadly famine-induced cholera epidemic is still raging, and food prices remain far too high for the poorest to feed themselves. And there's a new problem on the horizon. As winter is approaching, tens of thousands of Bengalis in the northern part of the region don't have enough to feed and clothe themselves, or any other way to stay warm. Here, nighttime temperatures drop down towards deadly freezing in the months of December, January, and February. There is, as of yet, no plan in place to alleviate that situation. Despite all of that, in London and Calcutta, Amery's message and Wavell's budding aid operation is chalked up by many as problem solved. Problem solved is pretty much what German Führer Adolf Hitler feels this week when he settles a months-long dispute among some of his leadership. On November 18, a mobilization effort in the occupied Baltic countries concludes. Around 40,000 18 to 24-year-olds have been called up to service into the foreign legions of the Waffen-SS in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. The mandatory draft is the result of an effort by Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler to give the Baltic states partial autonomy now and full autonomy after the war is over. That effort found support by many of the collaborating national administrations who not only view this as a potential autonomy within a Nazi-dominated Europe, but also as an anti-Bolshevist bulwark against any national support for Soviet rulership, even if the war should end unfavorably for Germany. One of them is Latvian General Oskars Dankas, head of the Latvian Nazi puppet regime. On the 18th, he addresses the new recruits. The Latvian white and red flag has in battle once again taken its place in the sun. Under this flag, the Latvian legionnaires march against Bolshevism. We want to fulfill our soldierly duty faithfully in firm belief of a free Latvia within the brotherhood of the free peoples. Through our effort and sacrifice, Latvia will once again rise up as an equal link in the community of the European peoples. Here's the thing, though. That deal for independence is not anywhere close to as done as Dankers thinks. The same day he speaks, Hitler is having a meeting at the Wolfschanze, the Führer's East Prussian bunkered headquarters, with Himmler and Alfred Rosenberg, Reichsminister für die besetzten Ostgebiete, the Nazi in charge of the occupied East. Rosenberg is mighty angry at Himmler for promising the Baltic states autonomy. They've been wrestling about this all summer and autumn. Himmler needs bodies for the Waffen-SS and sees the Baltic peoples as some sort of hybrid German-Slavic race that is only slightly subhuman. Now that the Jews have been almost completely exterminated and the few remaining Jews have been enslaved or fled, Himmler also believes that the Bolshevik threat has been eliminated. So why not concede some rights and get the draft? Rosenberg, himself born in the Russian Empire to a German-speaking Estonian family, on the other hand, is slightly less afflicted by the racial delusions about Judeo-Bolshevism and still sees the Baltic states as potential hotbeds for Bolshevik resistance and wants to remain in tight control. Now, after Himmler just went ahead without Rosenberg, made loose promises for independence in September, and got his draft, it even came to a screaming match between the two. Now they have been called up to the principal's office for a dressing down and to settle the matter. After several heated discussions over the course of 3 days and consultation with his foreign minister, Reichsaußenminister Joachim von Ribbentrop, the Führer sides with Rosenberg. There will be no autonomy. From a military perspective, it doesn't matter. Himmler has his Waffen-SS recruits anyway. Dankers and the other Baltic leaders may see that differently, but they won't find out for now, with the Nazis continuing to dangle potential autonomy, but constantly dodging any concrete reforms. Now, these delusions about a Jewish race-wide conspiracy being the actual enemy drives another Nazi puppet regime to make a law with deadly consequences this week. In the Italian Social Republic, ostensibly ruled by Benito Mussolini's new fascist party, a resolution is adopted at what will be the only official meeting of the party leadership ever. They are completely dominated by the German Nazi Party, who are on record in multiple sources to care little about Italy except as a defense zone against the Allied advance from the south, and of course as yet another region that needs to be purged of any and all Jews. At the meeting, Mussolini's party comrades pass a bunch of resolutions about the future of their fledgling state. Most are of no consequence, many are contradictory, and together they are completely lacking in any clear doctrinal focus. All of those are also not dictated by the German Nazi Party, but one is. That those belonging to the Jewish race be considered foreigners. During this war, they belong to an enemy nation. The absence of this legal position hasn't stopped the Nazis to start the deportations and murders in Italy. But now the Gestapo and SS have a legal tool to use Italian police to round up Jews with less resistance from that police, according to the practice in place across occupied territory. In another place, the Nazi genocide does meet resistance by an Allied power. Now, you might remember that in late 1941 and 42, the Romanian army and police carried out deportations of hundreds of thousands of Romanian Jews into concentration camps in Transnistria, as the Axis invasion of the Soviet Union was in good progress. They also cooperated with the SS in mass murders in southwestern Ukraine and Transnistria, costing more than 200,000 men, women, and children their lives. Now, in November 1943, over 100,000 Romanian Jews remain in camps across Transnistria under unspeakable conditions of misery. But now that the Axis forces are on the back foot and the United Nations allies have warned in unmistakable terms that anyone committing atrocities together with Nazi Germany will face the consequences, the willingness of the Romanian fascist regime to be implicated in the genocide has waned. On November 17th, Romanian conducător Ion Antonescu warns his cabinet that the Germans are planning to massacre the Jews in the Transnistrian camps. Antonescu tells his ministers that they have to take measures and warn the Germans that I don't tolerate this matter because in the last analysis I will have a bad reputation for these terrible murders. Instead of letting this happen, we will take them away from there. Antonescu is gambling that the Soviet advances in the east and the Western allies in Italy, his German allies can't really offer any meaningful opposition to this decision. Logistics will, though. Undoing the massive deportation in the middle of losing a war is easier said than done. Although the first transports of 4,400 Jewish orphans will be back in Romania within a month, many of whom will be allowed to safely travel to Palestine, by spring next year, only another 15,000 Romanian Jews will have been brought back into the relative safety of their home country. And while Antonescu struggles with the logistics of undoing wrongdoing, the Royal Air Force has another go at delivering bombs over Berlin. Since the failed attempts in August, the leader of RAF Bomber Command, Arthur Harris, has increased the bombers available and capable to go to Berlin to 800, and he believes he has enough fighters for diversionary attacks to keep the bombers less exposed. He writes to Churchill, "We can wreck Berlin from end to end. It will cost us between 400 and 500 aircraft. It will cost Germany the war." Harris is not alone in this belief. This month's British Political Warfare Executive Report finds that a new proletariat is on the rise in bombed-out German cities and that a revolution might be brewing. They offer no evidence of these assumptions. After years of failures in espionage, the British have no boots on the ground in Germany, and they have not received any signals or leaked information suggesting that they are right. They even freely admit that it's speculation, but supposedly reasonable speculation. From the SS situation reports inside Germany this week, we can again see that it's wrong. Yes, people are tired of being bombed. Less and less Germans believe in absolute victory, but most still believe in some kind of victory. The Führer's speech last week and the promise of vengeance on the British is reportedly continuing to keep up morale. And it's not just the SS who contradict the intelligence speculations in Harris' plan. His U.S. counterpart, Karl Spaatz, completely dismisses the idea, saying that morale in a totalitarian society is irrelevant so long as the control patterns function effectively. Be that as it may, come hell or high water, Harris is set for a month-long campaign on Berlin. It begins with a raid of 440 bombers on November 18th. The city is fully covered by clouds, so markings are dropped blindly. They end up randomly distributed all over the city. That means the bombers and their bombs are also scattered. Since a single plane can't target anything, a successful bombing raid needs carpeting by several planes in unison, though. So the outcome does not meet expectations. 4 factories and 169 domestic houses are destroyed, with 391 civilians injured and 131 killed, including 27 foreign workers and POW. Now, 4 factories might sound like progress, but as I have shown many times, the Germans are taking effective countermeasures. The state of those countermeasures is another topic for meetings in the Führer's hiding place and headquarters this week. Reichsminister für Bewaffnung und Munition, Albert Speer, and his deputy, Karl Sauer, come to see Hitler on the 14th to report on their progress. They report that most production output is unaffected by bombing, in some areas even expanding. It's the cooperation with Fritz Sauckel, the man in charge of slavery for the general economy, and Oswald Pohl running the business side of the SS concentration camps that are paying off. Perhaps to Hitler's greatest pleasure, the production of the V-weapons, V for vengeance or Vergeltung in German, is progressing in Bergwerk Dora. The underground slave camp opened several weeks ago after the RAF destroyed the Peenemünde rocket research and assembly facility. Even better, this week they will begin construction on a new cavernous slave factory. On November 18, 1943, the first 1,000 prisoners arrived 75 kilometers southwest of Linz in Austria at the new Ebensee concentration camp, a subcamp of Mauthausen. From today on, they will work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, digging away to prepare what will become one of the most terrible places to end up in the Nazi slave machinery. Already now, during underground construction, many of the slaves have to work barefoot because the SS won't even give them clogs. The daily diet consists of a cup of watered-down, filthy coffee, 3/4 liters of hot water with potato peelings, and 150 grams of bread. In occupied Poland, at the Skarżysko-Kamienna slave camp, Jewish men and women toil in the German Hazag concern's 3-plant ammunitions factory. In Werk C, they have to mine picric acid without any protective gear. Within 3 months, the acid poisons their bodies and they die. But they are usually killed before that, like this week when 300 spent slaves are murdered. In all, up to 30,000 slaves will pass through the camp, and 3/4, 23,000, will not survive. In other parts of occupied Poland, mopping up after the genocide of Polish and Soviet citizens of Jewish ethnicity came to a dismal grand finale last week continues. Late October, the Nazis started to clear the murder sites around Lvov. The nearby Janowska concentration camp is closing down, and the few remaining prisoners are either to be moved into slavery in Lvov itself and Przemysl, or murdered. Most meet that fate, and during the liquidation of the camps around Lvov and Sandomierz, 6,000 are murdered. Among them are many of the Sonderkommando prisoners forced to do the cleaning up after 2 years of massacres that have seen 200,000 men, women, and children murdered. In places like the Piaski Ravine and Borki Forest, they dig up the bodies, cremate them, grind down the bones into the ashes, and mix it back all into the soil. At the ravine, on November 18th, some 30 remaining prisoners decide to make a last stand and fight to let anyone who can escape. The survivors will recount what Yehuda Goldberg says in the evening before. I am not young enough to go to the woods with you. I will only be a hindrance to you, and you will be captured because of me. I cannot run like some of you, and if I go with you, you will not leave me behind on the road, and it will be your end too. When you escape, the German police will shoot everyone left here, and I am better off dead than on the road, a hindrance to you. What have I to live for? My wife and 7 children have been killed, and I too want to die. It remains unclear how the uprising goes down. Only 2 of the prisoners who get away will survive the war. What is clear is that Yehuda is more than right. After the uprising, the SS and their auxiliary guards speed up the murders of the Sonderkommando prisoners, with 1,000 taken to a place near the Jewish cemetery at Sandomierz, where they are shot, cremated, ground up, and mixed in with the ashes of the many that they themselves have disposed of. Like the waters spiraling into a drain as the killing sites further east and their victims disappear, the genocide continues to center on Auschwitz-Birkenau. This week, 3,660 new arrivals will be registered, 2,271 new slaves will be added, 1,000 prisoners will be transferred to other slave factories, 15 people will try to escape, with 3 succeeding, 1,389 will be murdered in the gas chambers, 774 new arrivals, and 615 who were already in the camp. An unknown number will die of exhaustion, disease, and maltreatment. 3 newborn boys in the Roma and Sinti family camp will have their numbers said 8,883, 84, and 85, and 3 newborn girls said 9,595, 96, and 97 tattooed on their little forearms. Said for Zigeuner, German for gypsy. A little girl born just after her Polish non-Jewish mother arrives in the camp is tattooed with the number 67,848. One of the arriving transports on the 17th brings in 995 Dutch citizens of Jewish ethnicity. Of them, 531, 166 of whom are children, are taken to the gas chamber. They are added to a group of 164 non-Jewish Poles, mostly resistance fighters. Just before they are forced into the gas chambers, the victims are alone with the prisoner Sonderkommando without the SS. Josef, a Czech Jew chemist from Brno, serves in the Sonderkommando and is present in the women's undressing chamber on this day. Josef will be one of the victims who writes down their experiences and buries them in the ground around the camp. Many of the manuscripts will survive the camp, while their authors do not. Josef will be among them. Now, still alive, he writes, "A certain young Polish woman made a very short but fiery speech in the gas chamber, addressing all who were present, stripped to their skins. She condemned the Nazi crimes and oppression and ended with the words, 'We shall not die now. The history of our nation will immortalize us. Our initiative and spirit are alive and flourishing.' Then the Poles knelt on the ground and solemnly said a certain prayer in a posture that made an immense impression. Then they arose and all together in chorus sang the Polish anthem. The Jews sang the Hatikva. The cruel common fate in this accursed spot merged the lyric tones of these diverse anthems into one whole. They expressed in this way their last feelings with a deeply moving warmth, and their hopes for and belief in a future for their nation. Never forget.